My brother sold the condo I inherited from Grandma. Behind my back, but he made a crucial mistake. My brother stole $380,000 from me by forging my signature and selling the property my grandmother left me in her will. But what he didn't know was that Grandma Rose had predicted exactly what he'd do, and she'd left behind evidence that would destroy him completely. You won't believe what happened next. Before we continue, please subscribe and hit that notification bell, because this story has more twists than you can imagine, and you definitely don't want to miss how this plays out. My name is Charlotte Reed. I'm 27 years old, and for the past 3 years, I've been living in Berlin, Germany, working as a graphic designer for a boutique creative agency. I left Miami right after college graduation, chasing my dream of experiencing life abroad and building something that was entirely mine. My family had mixed feelings about the move. My parents owned a successful catering business in Florida and had always assumed I'd come work with them after school. My older brother Derek, who was 32 and working his way up at a financial planning firm, had been the most vocal critic of my decision. "You're being irresponsible," he'd said at my going-away dinner. "Running off to Europe like some college kid on spring break? What kind of career can you build over there? Mom and Dad need help with the business, and you're just abandoning them." My parents had been more diplomatic, though I could tell they were disappointed. But my grandmother, Rose Callahan, had pulled me aside the night before my flight. "Go, sweetheart," she'd whispered, squeezing my hands tight. "See the world while you're young and free. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for wanting more than what they chose for themselves." I'd hugged her, breathing in her familiar lavender perfume, not knowing it would be one of the last times I'd see her. That Wednesday morning in Berlin started like any other. I was sitting in my small apartment, reviewing design concepts for a hotel chain campaign, when my phone rang. It was Marcus Thompson, the estate attorney I'd hired after Grandma Rose passed away 6 months earlier. "Charlotte, you need to see this," he said without preamble. His voice had an edge I'd never heard before. "Your brother just sold your property." I set down my coffee cup, confused. "What property? I don't own any property." "Your grandmother's condo in Miami, the 2-bedroom unit in Brickell. She left you in her will." My stomach dropped. "I'm sorry, what nobody told me about any condo." There was a heavy pause on the other end. "Charlotte, you were named as the sole beneficiary of that property. It was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo in downtown Miami worth approximately $380,000. Your brother sold it last week for $345,000. The room started spinning. $380,000. That was enough money to pay off my student loans entirely. Enough to invest in my own design studio. Enough to give me real financial security for the first time in my adult life. And Derek had sold it. "How is that even possible?" I demanded, my voice rising. "If Grandma left it to me, how could he sell something that wasn't his?" "That's exactly what I'm trying to figure out," Marcus said carefully. "I received the probate documents yesterday, and something is very wrong here. The signatures don't match Charlotte. I think your brother may have forged documents to claim ownership." The words hit me like a physical blow. Forgery. My own brother had committed fraud to steal my inheritance. "I need you to not contact Derek yet," Marcus continued. "Don't let him know that you know. I'm gathering evidence, and if he realizes we're on to him, he might try to hide assets or create more false documentation. Can you do that?" I agreed, though. Every cell in my body wanted to call Derek immediately and scream at him. Instead, I sat in my apartment as morning light filtered through the windows, trying to process what I'd just learned. Grandma Rose had always been my champion. While Derek was busy climbing the corporate ladder, and my parents were consumed with their business, Grandma was the one who sat with me for hours, looking at travel magazines and talking about all the places I wanted to see. She'd traveled extensively in her 20s before settling down in Florida, and she understood my hunger for something beyond the life I'd always known. When I announced I was moving to Germany, Derek had been furious. She's throwing her life away, he told our parents at a family dinner. What happens when this little adventure fails and she comes crawling back with nothing to show for it? Are you going to support her then? My parents had tried to mediate, but Derek wouldn't let it go. Some of us take responsibility seriously. He'd continued glaring at me across the table. Some of us understand that family comes first. Grandma Rose had put down her fork and fixed Derek with a look I'd never seen before. Responsibility means honoring what makes people happy, not forcing them into boxes that make you comfortable. Charlotte is building a life on her own terms, and that takes more courage than staying in your comfort zone. Derek had left early that night, and we'd barely spoken since. Now sitting in Berlin 3 years later, I understood why Grandma had left me that condo. She'd known I'd need financial independence. She'd known I was building something real, even if the rest of my family couldn't see it. And somehow Derek had taken that gift and sold it for himself. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Great news! Derek finally managed to sell Grandma's old place. Such a relief to have that taken care of. Hope you're doing well in Germany, honey. I stared at the message, rage building in my chest. My mother had no idea. She thought Derek had inherited the condo. She believed he was handling family business responsibly, just like always. Nobody knew that Grandma Rose had specifically left that property to me. I typed back a neutral response, my hands shaking. That's good. Talk soon. Then I called Marcus back. I need to know everything, I said. How did this happen? How did he get away with it? I'm still piecing it together, Marcus admitted. But here's what I know so far. Your grandmother's will was very clear. She left the condo to you with specific instructions that it was to be held in trust until the estate was settled. Your brother was not mentioned in relation to this property at all. So how did he sell it? That's where it gets interesting. Marcus pulled up documents on his end, and I could hear papers shuffling. Derek presented himself as the executor of the estate and produced what appeared to be a power of attorney document, giving him authority to handle all property matters. But when I compared the signatures to your grandmother's actual signature from her will and other legal documents, they don't match. He forged her signature, I believe so. And there's more. He also submitted a document claiming you had signed over your inheritance rights to him. Your signature on that document is also clearly forged. I felt sick. My brother hadn't just stolen from me. He'd committed multiple acts of fraud, falsifying legal documents and forging signatures. This was serious. This was criminal. What do we do now? I asked. First, I'm filing an emergency motion to freeze the sale proceeds, Marcus said. The money from the sale is currently sitting in an escrow account pending final paperwork. If we act fast, we can prevent Derek from accessing those funds. Second, I'm gathering all the documentation to prove the forgery. We'll need handwriting experts, the original will, and all the fraudulent documents Derek submitted. And third, I need to ask you something difficult. Are you prepared to press criminal charges against your brother? Because that's likely where this is headed. I thought about Derek, the brother who'd taught me to ride a bike when I was 6, the brother who'd protected me from bullies in middle school, the brother who'd become someone I barely recognized, someone who apparently valued money more than family, more than integrity, more than the law itself. Yes, I said firmly. If he did this, he needs to face the consequences. Over the next week, I went through the motions at work, but my mind was thousands of miles away in Miami. Marcus kept me updated as he built our case. The handwriting analysis came back conclusive. The signatures on the power of attorney and the inheritance waiver were definitively not genuine. Derek had forged both documents. Marcus also discovered that Derek had been having serious financial problems. His wife, Nicole, had expensive tastes. They'd just bought a house they couldn't really afford, and their 2 kids were enrolled in an exclusive private school that cost $40,000 per year. Derek had apparently seen Grandma's estate as his solution to mounting debt. On day 8, Marcus called with an update. I filed all the necessary motions, and the court has frozen the sale proceeds. Derek can't touch that money now. I've also been in contact with the district attorney's office. Given the clear evidence of forgery and fraud, they're prepared to file charges. What happens next? I asked. Now we wait for Derek's response. Once he realizes the sale has been blocked, and why he'll need to make a choice. He can admit to the forgery, return the property to you, and face civil penalties. Or he can fight it, and this becomes a criminal matter. Either way, Charlotte, you're getting your inheritance back. 2 days later, my phone exploded with messages. My mother called first, her voice confused and hurt. Charlotte, what's going on? Derek says you're accusing him of stealing from you. He says it's all a misunderstanding. It's not a misunderstanding, Mom. Grandma Rose left me her condo in her will. Derek forged signatures to sell it and keep the money. The silence on the other end was deafening. That can't be right, she finally said. Derek wouldn't do something like that. There must be some mistake. Mom, I have handwriting experts who confirmed he forged Grandma's signature and mine. I have legal documents proving the condo was left to me. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is fraud. My father called next, and then several aunts and uncles. Derek had apparently spun a story about me being greedy and vindictive, about me trying to steal from the family, about me making false accusations because I was jealous of his success. Only my cousin Jessica, who had always been perceptive, called to ask my side. I always thought Derek was too good to be true, she said after I explained everything. Mr. Perfect, with his perfect life and his judgment of everyone else. Turns out he's just really good at pretending. The confrontation came 3 weeks after Marcus first called me. Derek finally responded to the legal motions, and his attorney requested a meeting to discuss settlement. I flew back to Miami for the first time since Grandma's funeral. The meeting was held in Marcus's office in a high-rise downtown. Derek arrived with his attorney, a sharp-looking woman named Patricia Chen, who clearly knew her client was in serious trouble. Derek looked terrible. His usual polished appearance was gone. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes were red, and he couldn't meet my gaze. Let's get to the point, Patricia said once we were all seated. My client acknowledges that there were irregularities in the handling of the estate. Irregularities. Marcus cut in sharply. Your client committed forgery and fraud. Let's not minimize what happened here. Patricia's jaw tightened. My client is prepared to return the property to Ms. Reed and compensate her for any losses incurred. In exchange, we're asking that criminal charges not be filed. Marcus looked at me, waiting for my response. I stared at Derek, who was studying his hands like they held the secrets of the universe. Why, I asked him directly. Why would you do this? Derek finally looked up, and I saw something I'd never seen in my brother before. Shame. Deep, crushing shame. I needed the money, he said quietly. The house, the school, Nicole's spending. We're drowning in debt, Charlotte. I saw the estate settlement, and I just thought if I could get ahead of it, handle it quietly, nobody would ever have to know. So you stole from your own sister? I tried to justify it. You're living in Germany, I told myself. You have your life figured out. You don't need this the way I do. His voice cracked. I told myself I'd pay you back eventually, that I'd make it right somehow. But once I started lying, I couldn't stop. The forgery, the fake documents, it all spiraled. Is that supposed to make me feel better? I asked coldly. You committed multiple felonies to steal my inheritance, and your excuse is that you needed it more than I did. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry, Charlotte. I don't know what else to say. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice steady, despite the anger burning in my chest. You're going to return every single penny from that sale. You're going to pay all legal fees, both mine and yours. You're going to compensate me for the lost value because you sold it under market price. And you're going to write a letter to our entire family explaining exactly what you did and why. Derek's face went pale. A letter, Charlotte? That will ruin me. You already ruined yourself, I said. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth. And one more thing. You're going to apologize to Grandma Rose. I don't care if you do it at her grave or just write it down, but you're going to acknowledge that you violated her final wishes and stole from the granddaughter she wanted to help. The settlement was signed that afternoon. Derek agreed to all my terms. He transferred $380,000 to my account, the full appraised value of the condo. He paid an additional $45,000 to cover legal fees and compensation for the delay. And he wrote the letter. 2 days later, I sat in my parents' living room as my mother read Derek's confession aloud to assembled family members. Her hands shook as she read about the forgery, the lies, the deliberate theft from his own sister. When she finished, the room was silent. My father's face was gray. Several aunts and uncles were crying. My cousin Jessica reached over and squeezed my hand. I didn't take pleasure in Derek's humiliation, but I didn't feel guilty about it either. He'd made his choices, and those choices had consequences. The fallout was swift and severe. Derek's firm somehow got wind of the fraud allegations, even though criminal charges were never filed. Financial planning is built on trust, and a planner who forges documents cannot be trusted. He was quietly let go with a severance package and a non-disclosure agreement. His marriage to Nicole, already strained by financial stress, completely fractured. She filed for divorce within 2 months, citing his deception and the destruction of their reputation in their social circle. Nobody wanted to be associated with the man who'd stolen from his own sister. My parents struggled with what Derek had done. My mother called me crying several times, torn between defending her son and acknowledging his crimes. My father was quieter, but made it clear he was deeply disappointed. The golden child, who'd always done everything right, had revealed himself to be a fraud in more ways than one. I stayed in Miami for a week after the settlement, sorting through practical matters and spending time with family members who wanted to express their support. My Aunt Margaret, Grandma Rose's younger sister, was particularly kind. Rose knew she told me over coffee one afternoon. Knew what that Derek might try something. She told me about 2 months before she died that she was worried he'd gotten too focused on money and appearances. She said she wanted to make sure you had security, that you had the freedom to build the life you wanted without financial stress. That's why she left you the condo. I felt tears burning in my eyes. Even at the end, Grandma Rose had been looking out for me. Margaret reached across the table and patted my hand. She'd be proud of how you handled this, you know. You didn't let him get away with it, and you didn't let him make you feel guilty for standing up for yourself. That's exactly the kind of strength she wanted you to have. With the $380,000 from the settlement, plus the additional compensation, I had $425,000. It was more money than I'd ever imagined having. But more than the money itself, I had validation. Proof that I was worth fighting for. Proof that my dreams and my future mattered. I returned to Berlin with a clarity I'd never had before. Within 3 months, I'd left my agency job and opened my own design studio. Reed Creative Solutions launched with 2 major clients I'd poached from my previous employer, both of whom were excited to work with me directly. I hired 2 junior designers and a project manager. We specialized in branding for boutique hotels and restaurants, combining my European sensibility with my understanding of American markets. The business took off faster than I dared hope. Within a year, we'd expanded to a team of 8 and were fielding inquiries from clients across 3 continents. I bought a larger apartment in Berlin, one with huge windows and a home office where I could work on designs. I traveled to conferences in London, Paris, and Barcelona networking and building my reputation in the industry. I was building exactly the life Grandma Rose had encouraged me to pursue. and every success felt like honoring her memory. Meanwhile, Derek's life continued its downward spiral. He took a job in sales at an insurance company, earning a fraction of his previous salary. The divorce was messy and expensive, with Nicole fighting for primary custody and substantial child support. He moved into a small apartment and struggled to maintain the relationship with his kids, who were old enough to understand that their father had done something terrible. His reputation in Miami's professional circles was destroyed. The story of the forged inheritance had spread through family networks and beyond. Nobody wanted to do business with someone who'd committed fraud against his own family. He'd lost everything he'd worked for, all because he'd been too greedy and too proud to live within his means. I didn't feel guilty about Derek's situation. He'd made his choices with full knowledge of what he was doing. He'd forged documents, committed fraud, and tried to steal from me because he thought he could get away with it. The fact that he'd gotten caught and faced consequences wasn't my fault. It was justice. 1 year after the settlement, I received a package from my mother. Inside was a small jewelry box with a note. "Your grandmother wanted me to give you this after everything with the condo was resolved." The note read, "She left it with me 6 months before she passed. Said I'd know when the time was right." I opened the box and found Grandma Rose's watch, the delicate silver timepiece she'd worn every single day. On the back was an engraving I'd never noticed before. "The world is waiting." I put the watch on immediately, feeling the weight of it on my wrist. It was a reminder of where I'd come from and where I was going. A reminder that someone had believed in me enough to fight for my future, even from beyond the grave. 2 years after everything happened, my parents came to visit me in Berlin. It was the first time they'd seen my studio, met my team, and experienced the life I'd built. My father was quiet as he toured the office, looking at the portfolio work we had displayed on the walls. My mother kept touching things, the sleek furniture, the design equipment, the framed awards we'd started winning. "You really did it," my father said finally. "Built something real. We were wrong to doubt you." My mother hugged me, tight tears in her eyes. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered, "and I'm sorry we didn't support you more when you left. We should have trusted that you knew what you needed." Their visit marked a turning point in our relationship. The awkwardness and guilt that had colored our interactions since Derek's fraud began to fade. We video called regularly, and they started sharing my business successes with their friends, proud of what I'd accomplished. It wasn't the relationship we might have had if Derek hadn't stolen from me, but it was honest and healing. I learned through my cousin Jessica that Derek had tried reaching out to me several times. He'd sent emails that I'd blocked, left voicemails I'd deleted. He wanted forgiveness, wanted reconciliation, wanted me to understand that he'd hit rock bottom and changed. But I wasn't interested in his redemption arc. Some betrayals are too fundamental to overcome. Derek had looked at the choice between his sister's financial security and his own greed, and he'd chosen greed. He'd forged documents, committed fraud, and tried to steal my future. The fact that he regretted it now didn't undo what he'd done. 3 years after Grandma Rose's death, I returned to Miami for a memorial gathering, organized by her friends and remaining family. It was held in the community garden she'd loved, with all her favorite flowers in bloom. My parents were there, and we hugged warmly. Derek wasn't invited, which everyone understood. After the memorial, my Aunt Margaret pulled me aside. "I have something else, Rose, left for you," she said, handing me an envelope yellowed with age. She gave this to me a year before she died. Said if anything ever went wrong with her estate, if anyone tried to take advantage, I was to give this to you. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a letter in Grandma Rose's familiar handwriting. "My dearest Charlotte," it read, "if you're reading this, it means something has gone wrong with my plans for your future. I wanted you to have the condo, because you're the one who truly understands what freedom costs, what it means to build a life on your own terms. I suspect Derek might try something. He's always been so focused on appearances, on having more than everyone else, that he's lost sight of what actually matters. If he has taken what I left, you don't let him get away with it. Fight for yourself, Charlotte. Stand up for what's rightfully yours. Don't let family obligation or guilt or fear of conflict stop you from demanding justice. You've always been braver than you realized, stronger than anyone gave you credit for. You left home and built a life in a foreign country. You pursued your dreams even when others doubted you. You have the courage to do hard things, to stand alone if necessary. That's why I knew you'd be okay, even if my plan went wrong. You'd find a way to make it right. I'm proud of you, sweetheart. More proud than I ever got to tell you properly. Live the life you want. See the world. Build beautiful things. And never let anyone make you smaller to accommodate their limitations. All my love. Forever. Grandma Rose. I folded the letter carefully, vision blurred with tears. Even from beyond the grave, Grandma had known. She had predicted Derek's betrayal and left me this message of encouragement and validation. She'd believed in my strength before I'd proven it to myself. Thank you, I whispered to the air, touching the watch on my wrist. Thank you for believing in me. That evening, I stood on my hotel balcony overlooking Miami's skyline. The city I'd left behind was now just one of many places in my life, not the center of my world anymore. I'd built something bigger than Derek could have destroyed, even with his fraud and theft. I thought about how different my life might have been if Derek had succeeded, if he'd managed to steal my inheritance without getting caught. I might never have found the courage to start my own business. I might have stayed at the agency playing it safe, never knowing what I was truly capable of achieving. In a twisted way, Derek's betrayal had forced me to become the person Grandma Rose had always believed I could be. Someone who stood up for herself. Someone who demanded justice even when it was difficult. Someone who built a life worth living on her own terms. My phone buzzed with a message from my lead designer in Berlin. Client from Tokyo just signed for a full rebrand. This is our biggest contract yet. When are you coming home? Berlin had become home in a way Miami never quite was. I'd found my place, my purpose, my people, and I'd done it by refusing to accept less than what I deserved. By fighting for the inheritance Grandma Rose had left me. By standing up to family pressure and demanding accountability. The brother who tried to steal my future had ended up giving me the motivation to build something even better than I'd imagined. His betrayal had revealed my strength. His fraud had catalyzed my independence. His punishment had become my freedom. Looking back, I realized that Grandma Rose's real gift wasn't just the condo or the money. It was the lesson that I was worth fighting for, that my dreams mattered enough to defend them even against family, that standing up for myself wasn't selfish, it was necessary. Derek had tried to take that from me, but he'd failed. Instead, he'd helped me discover a strength I hadn't known I possessed. And that discovery, that knowledge of what I was capable of when pushed to my limits, was worth more than any inheritance. I returned to Berlin the next day wearing Grandma Rose's watch and carrying her letter close to my heart. My studio was thriving, my team was talented and dedicated, and my future was entirely my own. Derek's attempt to destroy me had only made me stronger. His fraud had only made me wiser. His betrayal had only made me more determined. And every success I achieved, every client I signed, every award my studio won, was proof that Grandma Rose had been right about me all along. I was brave enough to leave, strong enough to fight back, capable enough to build something extraordinary. Derek had tried to steal my inheritance, but what he'd really done was help me claim my birthright. Not money or property, but the unshakable knowledge that I deserved every good thing I could create for myself. And nobody, not even family, could take that away from me ever again.